Hello, good morning. It's Thursday the 23rd. I'm FX Blue and this is the market brief. So Sunak's been on. He delivered his spring statement to Parliament yesterday. It did include the measures that had been carefully leaked beforehand, but Sunak tried to prepare the country excuse me, for worse news to come, and rightly so. The standard of living in the UK is set to fall to the lowest level since records began. And that, as that is set to fall, so the cost of living is set to continue rising. Recovering from that will take a lot more than a 5p cut to petrol prices or the 1% cut in the basic rate of income tax, which was dismissed as little more than an election gimmick. Sunak ploughed on with the decision to raise national insurance by 1.5% next month. For what it's worth, this will now start from £12,570 instead of £9,600 originally planned. We also have inflation data out yesterday, and despite 3 consecutive rate hikes, the headline inflation continued to rise. That rose to 6.2% in February, up from 5.5% in January, and core inflation rose from 4.4% up to 5.2%. Just a side note on this to highlight the inaccuracy of future forecasting. Way back in October, the Bank of England released a statement suggesting that inflation could maybe reach 4.5%, and that was a pretty punchy call back then, and yet here we are casually rocking 6.2%, and it's still rising. In the market, sterling was relatively unaffected by Sunak, which is often the case when the headlines have been leaked beforehand. We pulled up just short of 133 against the dollar and slipped back to 132 on the close. We remain pretty well supported against the euro though. We opened this morning around 120.15 there. Over in the US, the focus remains firmly on the Fed. Concerns are growing that they joined the fight against inflation a little too late for a controlled, measured approach. And the concern is that the more aggressive action that is needed now may well tip the US into recession. The market was generally supportive of the recent 25 basis point rate hike this month, but many members of the Fed have been on since then, calling for a 50 basis point hike at the next meeting, which is in early May. That's in order to gain control over inflation. And there is a case for front-loading the rate hikes. You only need to reference the UK, where we've had 75 basis points over the last 3 months, and it's barely scratched the surface. But it is a delicate balance to strike, and it carries the risk of overshooting to the point that growth is adversely affected. However, if they're going to do it, if they're going to have a crack at this and be more aggressive, they should consider doing it sooner rather than later. The earlier move would deliver maximum effect with minimum risk. And of course, while some of the current inflation is being driven by the Ukraine conflict, they have that additional driver to cushion a 50 basis point hike. But of course, they'll need to consider if that leaves them overexposed if the conflict were to end anytime soon. What a time to be a central banker. In the market, the dollar index rallied towards the 99 level again. We reached 98.90 yesterday, and euro dollar opens this morning around 109.80. Get out and about. It's a glorious morning. Join me again tomorrow.
If you do not have a clue, then just tweet through and ask FX Blue.